changed at all, and I like to see that. I like to see consistency. However, we are seeing an Astra for OWA, which is... Nope, that's pretty usual as well. Although I say we have an Astra for OWA, not anymore. She immediately gets taken down, pushing through out onto this B site. Now, the spike is down, so they're going to need to pull back a little bit. Need to play this a little bit more carefully. Losing your players so early on in the round, particularly your Astra that has all of your smokes and all of your utility, a lot of the things that you're planning to play off of, is very, very difficult once you start making your way back into the round. So the spike's going to start moving over towards that A site. And unfortunately, we've got Emilite on a bit of a lurk here. Now, I do mean unfortunately for OWA, because if they run into her when they're not expecting to, then that could be an easy couple of kills here. Immediately the push starts onto site. And we'll be able to take down one. Oh, a nice little kill there straight under the door as the trades will come back and forth. But of course, it's going to be the last one standing here for OWA, holding on to that spike. Poor Carly, last person alive. And Emilite, as I mentioned before, on that flank, coming up behind Carly. Not even going to get the chance to get a kill in there as Rain is going to be the one to pop her. And that's going to be the first round on the board here for Dignitas. Very, very unfortunate that we had to see the first player of Tire to go down so early on in the round.
All right, it seems I'm back on board. Unfortunately, Sam had to take a leave after solo casting that first pistol round, and hopefully my producers will let me know if they've still got me. As Dignitas off to a solid start, nice and early in this one. It's exactly what you needed to see after coming off that loss from Cloud9. But pistols is really where they start to reign supreme, and we'll see what OWA can get done. As Teray gonna go galactic, try and get those stars down. Now on the attacking side, the stars can be very telling as to where you are gonna push, especially when those smokes end up getting popped here. Sholiana holding it down, Ares in the hand, the spike gonna push up towards lane, and they actually find the kill. The classic starting to come online as Madison takes down the Sova, holding it down on site. Now the retake to commence, but in a 4v5, OWA have the numbers advantage, but not necessarily the arsenals. A nice Leer comes through. The classic just unfortunately can't cut through it. Not in time, at least. Has a double swing. Nets a kill to even the odds. And in a 4v4, Noki doing what she can. Rain up top. There it is. The turret actually going to get on the board as well, and it's all down to the last. Hannah, who netted the Ares previously, not going to get much done with it this time around as they toss that one on over to Thea. Get a bit closer to that lockdown in the second round of Dignitas. Now, with rifles on the board, full armor across the board, this should be the round that we see OWA strike back. And this is actually the map that I was expecting them to do fairly well on. Obviously, weighing a lot on that pistol to get things going this next rifle round, this first rifle round. Will be the first time we start to see a bit more of that action. It's Spectres and an Ares across the board. We've seen how much the Ares can get done.
Hello. Hey, I got you. We back. Are you? I don't hear anything in VMix. Okay, nice. Yeah, so technical stuff on the fly. We're so good at this job. I didn't get to catch any of the previous rounds because I was trying to sort that one out. But I do see that it's 2-0 now for Dignitas. And OWA look to be going for a full rush towards the A site with a lurking Cypher as well to try and back them up as they rush straight through onto the site.
And a fairly easy take. Having a member up makes it a whole lot easier. as that spike goes down to Ray. Gonna net that ult orb. We saw them kind of tossing it back and forth. It was one to the Killjoy for Dignitas. Thea picking that up, trying to get that lockdown online. And we can see OWA working on that Cosmic Divide as Emily pushes out so deep. Hannah just holding it down. Somehow they sniff it out. An unfortunate spot to be. The odds get even, but Dignitas are working against the clock. They've got to pull the trigger. We could quite possibly see a save if they don't start to get it done soon.
They do need to play this one a little bit more carefully, though. Gonna play this a bit more patiently, but despite the patience, OWA just going in super aggressive here. Tirray popping off. Now we can see why they wanted to get off the board so quickly in that first round, because once she gets online, she just absolutely dominates. A nice little 3K there to help clutch out and get OWA their first point on the board.
And that was, I think you were still gone, maybe not being able to hear me, but the round, I was hyping up that round as the round that OWA really needs to get something done. So it bodes very well for that squad to be able to do that. The pistol 50-50 could go either way sometimes. And then that next round, obviously, you're expected to lose it. So coming back in round 3 to pick that up, it shows me that OWA are still dominant on this map. Although it was the Arsenal advantage, we'll see what they can get done. 2 members were knocked down in that last from Dignitas. So the bonus wasn't a complete bonus across the board, as they've got their stance up towards this mid area, but that spike yet to be picked up. So no real trigger being pulled just yet from OWA.
I like to see that they are playing this that little bit more patiently. Now, that was a word that I used in the previous round as well, but you're not seeing them kind of burst aggressively onto site or playing too unrealistically quickly. They want to gather a little bit of intel first. They've got that double information gatherer setup, you know, the Cypher and the Sova. So they've got the time. They've realized now the B site's more or less open, so this is where they're going to be pushing through. But Dignitas are very, very close to that B site. They're going to be able to rotate very, very quickly. And again, I think that we're going to have another lurk coming through here. As yes, Emily and Thea seem to be making their way through mid. They're going to be pushing up through the B site, and they're going to create that pincer.
And it's the same thing they did in that second round. They pushed together. The information is there, though, as a whole lot of kills over towards B. Sholiana just holding it down. They don't even need the flank. As Rain looks for the last, instead it's Emily swinging on through, Bulldog in hand. Wow, that was a huge round for Dignitas to pick up.
And this bodes the question for OWA. So, of course, they play that one a little bit more passively, but they're playing into a team that plays that passive play style that little bit better. They, like, out-passive OWA's passiveness, if you can even put it that way. So they don't really have an opportunity. They need to be watching their flanks a little bit better, because as much as that flank didn't make it to them on time, the pincer motion comes in. So they've got to be watching those cross angles, watching to make sure people aren't coming in from various directions, so that they have an opportunity to push through, get through those blind spots. That's a very, very important one. The blades are going to be popped here for Madison, and they're going to start pushing towards the A site. And again, I think this might just be to make noise, because the spike slowly starting to make its way to the rest of the team. Okay, so it's not just to make noise. They actually are going to go for the A push here.
Yeah, this was a very labored buy, though. So using the knives could either be huge, as Madison finds that first kill. So they do start to pay off in favor. Sholiana tries to slow things down the updraft, but it's going to catch the toesies there. So now the blade's offline. And you've got, like I said, this labored buy. Spectres, Sheriffs, that's all you have to work with. And you've got so much working against you. The lockdown going to be popped by Thea. They're now going to have to get away from this site as Stephanie holds it down inside one of these nebula smokes, picks up 1 kill, looks for the lockdown, not able to find the next kill, and should get detained on the way out. 2 members detained, as it's all down to the last. Stephanie trying to hide in the corner, and the spike not in the best spot for Hannah to play around it. Dignitas, they get it done despite losing a member early.
And we weren't really expecting OWA to do too well on that map, because again, they were kind of ecoing it out a little bit there. To get caught in the detain was definitely unfortunate, not able to actually get the lockdown out of play. And so you get 2 people off the back of just the lockdown. That was a relatively expensive round for Dignitas, though, to have invested the lockdown into the anti-eco. But again, this shows that they're not underestimating their opponent. They want to make sure that they're using just enough to secure themselves around, but they don't want to go overboard. So they still have the Empress and the From the Shadows available, but That big old wall is available for Astra. And again, that's so good at bisecting sites, blocking down sight lines, and as we mentioned in the previous series, it muffles sound, so you don't really know what's going on the other side of the wall. It's a terrifying thing to have just put up straight in front of your face. So I really want to see how OWA are going to use that to make some space on a site and maneuver around it to leverage themselves a round win.
I'm definitely keeping my eye on that as the Astra is split up from the team. Madison trying to gain some ground up towards Catwalk, and Emily going to deny that there. To dismiss to get away and look for a bit more information, and things get a whole lot harder. The Cosmic Divide is still available, but once you lose a member in your next buy round, you're maybe not looking to pop that one immediately, as the spike has since been picked up and is moving on over towards this B site. But it's a full setup, and we've seen what Thea can do. So this Killjoy, although all by her lonesome, still very scary over here.
Teray over in their astral form, dropping some smokes, possibly some gravital pulls as well, just to give themselves a little... Oh my goodness, Thea not going to get the opportunity to react at all, as all of her utility goes offline as she's taken down.
That is such a feels bad, man. There, I was expecting Thea to get so much more, but instead it's OWA making their way on the site. Now, it wasn't for free, and because of that kill early, they're still down a player despite going 1-for-1 towards this B site. But with the spike planted and Stephanie doing things like that, it makes it a whole lot more doable. Looking for another kill, trying to tap. Unfortunately, Emily is going to go with that Ferrari swing and peek. Finds that kill in the last two. Chipped away, lower on HP. That recon bolt is going to be taken down. So you have the information that they're lane. One to fall. That's Rain going down through the wall. Sholiana picks up another, making that Odin pay off. And through the smoke, Teray has nothing to go off of. Emily finds a nice little 3K as Dignitas running low on time.
No!
Oh my goodness, I
my
wasn't even paying
God.
attention. It's the clutch for Teray.
Oh, that was so well played by Teray. She runs down the clock for so long. We actually saw the fake. Sholiana touches the spike, and if she'd actually stuck it, they might have been able to push through, because she moves to the side but doesn't realize, and should have had a little bit more faith in Emily, because Emily pushes into back aside to get the kill onto Teray. So the stick could have gone through there, and this is where we talk about that synergy. It's so important. Trust your teammates. Yes, it's a dangerous situation to be in. It could have gone either way, but Emily would then have been a distraction to Teray, so you might have still been able to get at least the halfway there. And unfortunately, they run down the time and aren't able to get the defuse. A really well-played round from OWA.
And they're trying to get more here with the quick play towards A, but immediately stunted there as that judge found two. Now the neural theft for the information, but OWA find themselves once more at a player disadvantage. Sholiana can avoid information from now. That drone does give a bit away, and quite possibly, no, doesn't spot the one under heaven. So an Omen might be able to see what Rain can do. Usually good for a multi-kill whenever she is showcased, and has the from the shadows. That spike, it's bouncing back and forth. They still haven't made a decision. The last time we saw this, though, it was a full rotate over towards B.
OWA, I feel, are a little bit too hesitant. Like, there's being patient and waiting for information, and then there's just running down the time a little bit too much. They're kind of staggering outside. Oh, there's that wall. I've been waiting for it. Let's see how they utilize this, because it doesn't cut the entire site. It just cuts off a small portion where you usually plant the spike.
Yeah, but, I mean, there it is. It was all Rain all day there, and when you voted that question before, how does this wall go down, and our interests in it, I was thinking the same thing. It's so hard to get value if you just try and cut something in half, because there's so many nooks and crannies around both of the sides, around mid, to play around, and that was the perfect showing. It was Sholiana and Emily on one side, but Rain holding it down on the more positive side of that Cosmic Divide, and it comes up huge there. 3 kills on the round, a multi-kill, like I said, going into that round. Whenever Rain is showcased, she really does show up.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the wall itself was just positioned a little bit too unfavorably. As they push out through that choke point, they don't have enough time to actually utilize, particularly because there were players coming from heaven. If everyone was just rushing through tree, the wall would have worked out way better. But because you have some coming from heaven as well, they've got really long sight lines on you. They can see you rushing through that choke point. That wall does nothing. Now, we do have attack pause coming through here for our hour, and I think they need it. You don't want to wait too long to take that attack pause. Give yourself a moment of respite. Figure out what you do next. They've just utilized that Astra ultimate. They only really have the Hunter's Fury left to work with. They're not even close to any other ultimate either, and they're gonna have to save this round as well. So how they approach this next round is going to be pivotal.
And you mentioned, not close to any ultimates. Everything was basically used there. It was the Rolling Thunder to get things started. It didn't touch Milky, and she gets 2 kills with the judge. And I believe that Neural Theft was used on that body for the information. Then the wall came down, that Cosmic Divide, and it was just nothing to be found there. So that is a very expensive round to lose. Now, the last time, and I really hope I don't jinx Dignitas here, the last time we saw a tactical pause and Dignitas was on a buy, the other team, it was Cloud9 at the time, was on an eco. Dignitas then lost against that eco. So hopefully I don't cast or curse him, but this could be, I guess if you're going off information, once is a fluke, twice is data. But the last time we saw a tactical pause, it was actually Dignitas kind of icing themselves or slowing themselves down and then losing to an eco. So that could quite possibly be the answer here for OWA.
Well, it's slightly different because that was Dignitas's pause as they tried to turn things back in their favor. Now Dignitas is firmly in control. So the tack pause could work in their favor a little bit more as well as they try and figure out what OWA's next strat is going to be. But they're feeling a little bit more comfortable coming into that. I mean, look at that. The comfort coming out of their ears.
Yeah, there's just it's off limits, caution tape. You're not allowed to come this way, as Juliana and Thea were holding it down. I did like what Madison did there. She dashed onto the site, and typically it's the dash on the side, hit the switch, and kind of play inside that switch area, but instead try to push on the site. The problem with that is she had to clear every single corner all by herself. She peeks right, gets shot from the left from backside or in that boathouse. So a tough play, good initiative. Just unfortunately didn't have the backup there just yet. And sometimes it's what happens when Jet players try to do Jet things.
Boathouse is no longer Boathouse. It is now Thea's house. That is where she lives, and you are not welcome. Anyone that we saw it in the previous series as well. She had a phenomenal showing in Boathouse as well, where she managed to get that ridiculous 3K. So yeah, that's a dangerous place to push onto. But that now bodes the question: where do you push onto? Because the A side is unlocked with 3 people. Your only real option here is mid, which is what they're going for right now. But the rotations will be so quick from either side that you yourself as the attacking team need to really be on your toes as you make your way onto site. They have actually managed to get the spike to site though. So now it's all about that post plant, and it's retake, retake, retake for Dignitas.
And I'm going to have to go back and look at this round to see, because it seemed like Thea and Sholiana were playing off site, and I didn't know if it was they were playing off site or there was a mid call and they rotated off, because then that obviously bodes well for OWA baiting out those rotations and then taking that site for free. Unfortunately, this far it hasn't been free for either team, as kills have been traded back and forth, and Thea gonna find another again. She knows that they're inside Thea's house and she's not happy about it. They start to run him down on the retake, but Carly has the position. Thea, the last one alive now, has to go for the defuse. The Hunter's Fury going to be used on top of it all. You're out of time. You're out of HP. Now both of them going to go down to the spike here as Carly finds herself a 3K, a 4K technically going down to the spike on the way out, but OWA battle back.
And Carly does this in every single B push. She doesn't push onto site. She kind of waits out in that choke area, pulls back a little bit, and it's almost like so it's not a full lurk. She doesn't go off on a wild adventure, rotate all the way back and then lurk back, but she hides in a corner, and once Dignitas come out onto site, she pushes in from behind them, and somehow they haven't started to expect that just yet. And you mentioned that rotation from the B side. I think that was Dignitas trying to play for the retake. So instead of having the 2 people on site to try and defend, you pull back a little bit, you play a little bit more patiently, and then you plan to push onto them, because they didn't push too far back into spawn. They just pulled back a little bit so that they were out of sight. But unfortunately, it didn't work out because, again, Carly had a fantastic kind of lurk adjacent strategy there. And if she just keeps doing that on the B site, usually she gets value out of it.
And since that free, quote unquote, B take for OWA, the positions have rotated or switched up a little bit. We see that Killjoy playing over and Thea playing over towards A. And they've got a player inside market this time around. So if that alarm bot goes, it's not a free push onto this B side through that avenue. As the fault line comes down, maybe trying to bait a rotation out once more. That drone going to give up some information. The alarm bot going to be taken down as well. So a lot of mid control in favor of OWA as they continue to look to push through. This time, they're going right through the spawn. The flash point on the back of the site not needed as Teray finds that first kill. They look to turn their eyes over towards A. Only one playing here. And the backstab from Stephanie to find Rain. Now a Hunter's free from Sholiana this time around. We've seen how strong she could be. It's Milky Way instead with the Vandal, and OWA had the play, but it doesn't seem to be their day. Teray needs to come up huge. 2 kills already on the round. Running out of time, needs to get that spike planted. Doesn't have a whole lot of space to work with as that lockdown comes on through. It's going to take a 4K for a 4th round here for OWA. Instead, it's Thea to find the kill as the spike gets planted. So an extra ult pip in the back pocket as Dignitas pushed to 7.
Oh man, the slight gap between those two obstacles there. And I mean, let's face it, there wasn't a ton of time to go for that plant. Teray had literally, I think she had about half a second left by the time the spike went down. She didn't have time to think about where she was planting. All she knew is she needed to plant. And as that spike hit the ground, the swing comes out from there. And that was almost a solid round for OWA as well. I think what really kind of shot them in the foot there was the Hunter's Fury that came out and split them up, forced some of them into Milky Way sightlines, forced the rest into kind of a back alley area towards that Heaven site. And they weren't able to stick together. We talk about how important that is, that you play together as a team, and they weren't able to. They were forced out by the Hunter's Fury. And now OWA coming into this round on an eco. They're popping the Blade Storm though. So they're looking to invest into this eco round despite the fact that they don't have guns to back it up.
This is exactly what we saw a few rounds ago, too. It was the Blades coming out. It was a play towards A, but if the Blades go down, Madison was good for 1 kill in that round. But if the Blades go down, like you said, you have a lot invested. I guess with 2 rounds left, maybe Madison hoping to get that ult on the line in the next coming round, but we'll see. You don't have that Rolling Thunder to work with this time around. You do have the Cosmic Divide. Could Teray choose to use it in this? Might be saving it for the last round as that Recon Bolt looks to get some information. It does get the information that everybody has since pushed off the site, but when you go and try and close the door, now you're in trouble. They spot the jet coming out through. The right click's gonna go wide. Thea finds a kill with the utility. Emily gonna use that rifle in the hands of the Reyna as they cut OWA down to the final 3 here in this round. The spike is planted, but a 5v3 retake bodes very well. And this eco round just starts to fall apart. A bit of damage is all OWA can find. They invested so much, like you said, Sam.
This was the trust that I wanted to see. I mean, you saw Emily, she runs straight out, gets a kill, runs into the enemy team with a dismiss, knows that the rest of her team is there to back her up. So she dismisses through the enemy team. A couple more kills come through. She gets through on the other side, doesn't even worry about what's happening behind her, goes straight to the spike to stick the defuse. That's the trust that I was talking about. And I mentioned this in the previous series against C9 White, but Dignitas have really good map control. They're really good at shutting down the map. The problem was C9 was just better. They utilized that Astra really well, but now against OWA, a team that doesn't have the same kind of pedigree as C9 White, to put it that way, I guess, you can really see how strong Dignitas's play is. And now Milky Way has that operator in her hands. Anybody that pushes A, oh, she missed! Oh, I was so looking forward to proving a point there, and then she missed.
And so the miss hurts, but the Cosmic Divide was used, and this is, I mean, same kind of scenario, although it was an eco round last time. They get on the site. Okay, there we go. Open things up. Madison not needing the blades. Instead, that Vandal finding the headshot through the wall, and Milky Way gets down, sit down. Operator and Bladestorm now offline for Dignitas. Down to the final 3 here in the final round of the half. Sholiana up towards heaven. Needs to try and get something done. We've got that Empress pop for Emilite as well. Looking for avenues of approach. Is going to choose to swing on through tree. There's a long flank coming from Rain, but they're running out of time. They're going to have to send something here very soon. Rain able to find one. Now cut the numbers down to 4 for OWA. Teray on low HP is... They just keep battling back. It's Sholiana up towards heaven. Hasn't been able to gain any spaces. Madison finds a 4K to close out the half. 8-4 we go.
And so what I always say when we come to these 8-4s is that it's the best of a bad situation. Yep. At the very minimum, you want to be coming into the half with 4 points, because it gives you like a little bit of wiggle room. So if they lose the first 2 pistol rounds, obviously it's not ideal. It brings it to a 10-4, but you still have 3 rounds. So you have that, like I said, wiggle room. And if you win the 2 pistol rounds, you've brought yourself up to 6 points. So you've almost evened out the scoreline. This is not a terrible position for OWA to be in, particularly because they did win those first 2 pistol rounds. However, I am somewhat having some deja vu to what we saw a little earlier on, where Dignitas would win the first 2 pistol rounds in the first half. The second half would come around and C9 would win those 2 pistol rounds. So let's see if that trend, if you can call it that, continues, as we saw OWA win the first 2 rounds, or the first 2 pistols in the first half. Can Dignitas win out the first 2 pistols here, or will OWA continue on and win out those first 2 pistols? If they can do that, then they have a serious fighting chance here in this series. If they can't do that, then I don't know, it doesn't bode well.
And that way, I mean, if they can't, you can kind of see where and what you need to work on. I think pistol round proves to be one of the most important, especially in a series like this, or when the score is close, when you're starting to battle back and try and gain some momentum. A lot of it can get started in this second half pistol. OWA have I believe the closest game, or one of the closest games on record for the Verizon Game Changers, in that 14-12. In that, they ended up losing after being up 8-4. So now we're seeing OWA on the inverse try and battle back, right? If you go down 8-4 and you end up losing that in overtime, how do you perform when you're down 8-4? So this pistol round for both of these teams, just as important across the board. But like you said, as we've already got we saw once as a fluke, we saw twice as data. We know that Dignitas sometimes struggles here on this round, as we've got this the half round pause now coming to an end, and it's 4 stacked up over towards A, and Rain just looking to do Rain things on the lurk.
That being said, so I'm just checking over my data again, and Ascent is, rather Attack is Dignitas's weaker side on Ascent. So they had a really, really solid defensive round here. And the defensive round is OWA's stronger one at a 71% win rate, as opposed to a 55 on the offense. And again, like, very limited data. Actually, no, this is the map they've played almost the most, with 7 maps. So this is some decent data on this. Their defense, statistically, is better. So let's see, can they turn this one around? Already they managed to get a really solid, make that 2. Whatever. They win.
Make it everybody. A nice flawless for OWA to battle back. And you were saying it. You were preaching the numbers. That 71% on defense now looking to skyrocket. And you can see how much of a pain that breach is to have standing on the opposite side of you. Just flash after flash, or flash point after flash point, I should say. Stopping the push-up catwalk, and then the rest of the team, they just swarm them.
And this is what I was saying, because now look how close the scoreline is after just 1 pistol round. Yes, you come into the second half at quite a deficit, but the 2 pistol rounds, huge momentum swing. Let's see if OWA can continue on with that, because now they've also got the gun advantage on top of everything else. So how do they leverage that, knowing that in the next round, Dignitas are going to full buy?
That's a pretty good start for Dignitas, making at the very least, that bonus not be free for anybody, or everybody, I should say. I will strike back for 2 almost immediately. This bodes well, because if you lose the rifle coming into this next one, your economy kind of goes down the drain. But getting this spike plant, it helps a whole lot for Dignitas going into the future round. So some credits kind of just tossed over by OWA, and I'm expecting this to be a fairly easy retake as Anna gets that information, and all 3 members corralled on site. I I'm not sure really what you could expect for Dignitas here. A couple of right clicks really need to go your way.
Well, they do still have the turret, so they can swing on that. Our do need to play this very carefully. We spoke about how important it is to be able to swing on your teammates, but... Or they could just do that, I suppose.
Yep.
Aggression, aggression, aggression. And to be fair, that was one of the things that I kind of chastised them about in the previous half. I was saying they're too hesitant. They don't actually, like, hit the go button. And now on this defense, they took a second to get themselves into position, and then they just ran straight in, and they ran over the last remaining players of Dignitas. I said that statistically the defense was better. We saw in the first half they won the 2 pistol rounds, but then Dignitas proceed to win like 8 rounds almost in a row. OWA have now won the first 2 pistol rounds. They need to keep that momentum. It's an anti-eco, which means that OWA have a severe gun disadvantage, but they have the advantage of numbers in terms of stats. How do they leverage that? Oh my earth, look at all that utility.
Yeah, a lot of utility, a lot of aggression, and it's starting to get punished. The first rifle for Dignitas. They take down 2 members nice and early for OWA, and it is that bonus round, so you can tell they're just trying to close the gap and trying to get the best with these shorter range weapons like this Spectre, as the Lear is going to be used by Emily, and they sniff this one out. Madison has no way in. Now down to the last 2. It's the information gatherers. But I don't think the information doesn't win this round, I don't think.
All right, ladies, I said to be more aggressive, but y'all just took that a little bit too far. You don't need to run it down mid. This isn't League of Legends, all right? Like, you need to find a middle ground, all right? You need some patience, but like patient aggression. That sounds like the biggest oxymoron ever, but that's exactly what you need to have. Ooh, Emily with the 4K. Very nice.
Yeah, Emily was on fire that round. Sniffed out, or got an early kill, then sniffed out that lurk from Madison, knowing that she could be pushed up close catwalk. And I mean, that right there, Madison could have had a huge round. We just saw her do that in the last, where she picked up, the last round of the half, picked up 4 kills. So we know, obviously, has that multi-kill Madison, if we will. And now it's not a bonus, right? It's Stephanie Sure on the Spectre. The breach, it's so expensive to have all of that utility, but you just need it on that agent. So it is just going to be that Spectre, but it's rifles against rifles for everybody else. So now we see how Dignitas fares in this even battle, and on, like you said, their attacking side that isn't necessarily the best.
I'm really interested to see how they choose to attack this site now, because they've realized that they can't just kind of run in and do crazy things. And OWA, you know, contrary to the previous round where they just run straight out of mid and 2 people died in that middle area there, they're now playing a little bit more safe. They're waiting for Dignitas to push into them before they make any sort of moves. And this is good. Given the composition that they're running, they really have no right to just be rushing straight out into the middle of nowhere. So I like this play style a lot better. I mean, look at all of that information. Now they know exactly where... Oh, that's an unfortunate shock dart.
Yeah, Carly, unfortunately tagging herself there a bit, but making up for it. His hand on the back of this site. But we know who this boathouse belongs to. It's Dignitas's clubhouse for the most part. Sholiana can get that spike down, planted in the back corner. So maybe having some strats for this one, not necessarily planning in that default spot, as Emily just continues to go to work. 4 kills in the last 2 here into this one with the Empress popped. OWA. I mean, they're working against a whole lot, and Carly trying to make things a bit easier. Both recon bolts going to be traded out, playing over towards lane. Madison goes down, Carly to fall right afterwards, and Thea feeling quite comfortable next to Sholiana here on this B site.
This is what I was afraid of. You know, we see OWA taking those first 2 pistol rounds, and Dignitas are just like, all right, that's as much as we will allow you to do. And now we're getting into the danger territory, because 3 rounds left. That's all Dignitas need to win. The next round is almost a throwaway, because it's a save for our OWA. If they manage to win this round, I will be thoroughly impressed. My expectation is that this is going to take us to an 11-6. That is going to put some money in OWA's pocket, so they have a chance to turn it around. But again, that puts us 1 round away from match point. like we're teetering so close to the edge here for our. They need to, if they can't win this round, they need to get as many kills as humanly possible to dent Dignitas's economy so that they have a fighting chance in the coming rounds.
And now I will say on the defensive end, it gets a bit easier to get some value out of that Bladestorm. You can play those close corners. You can play the long fights. You're not necessarily having to push in and check everything to get the value. So Madison could have herself a pretty big round. And the rest of the squad right behind her are very close to their ultimates as well. I believe it's 1 pip to get to that Hunter's Fury. You see 2 here for the Rolling Thunder. So those ultimates could turn the tide of this round. Yeah, we are expecting Dignitas to be able to pick this one up. And there it is. The blades go down again. Rain goes huge. And what could have been a big round for OWA now once more looks like they've been flipped on their heads unless Stephanie can get something done here. Nope, the Sheriff not going to do it either. Rain goes good for a multi-kill. Teray not going to find too much. A site opened up, and the last 2 from OWA. You just got to run it down here. Hope for the best. Hope you can hurt that economy like you said, Sam, but you definitely don't want to be saving on these Sheriffs.
Oh, yeah, absolutely not. There's literally no point to that. So you want to rush out. They haven't even managed to get 1 kill, and it's super unfortunate. We know how powerful these guns can be. Sheriff's, the one-tap potential is massive, but the swings from Dignitas, oh my earth, that shock dart. It's so unfortunate with Hannah, the last girl standing on the team there, but not going to be able to get anything done. And now this is it. This is that super, super dangerous territory, because if our lose this, we're on match point. And this, it always puts you in a really strange position, right? Because you saved on the previous round so that you would have money for this round. So now you're going to full buy. If you lose this round, you're on match point, and you have next to 0 economy.
Yeah.
It's such a precarious situation to be in, but look how they're investing. They're giving Madison the operator this time around with only half armor as well, because they know how badly they need to win this round. So they need to lock down this map like we know that they can. They've also got a Hunter's Fury online. They need to be aware of the Bladestorm and the lockdown still available for Dignitas.
This is a tough round to be in for OWA when you're on your next buy and you do have those 4 incredibly daunting ultimates. You're just staring in the face. I'm not too sure if we'll see that Bladestorm. Hunter's Fury going to be used. Try and slow things down here. Hannah going to be the first to find a kill, and across the map, they actually pick up another. So a lot of aggression towards A, but the spike is towards B. Fortunately for Dignitas, Rain didn't move. Or actually, Rain ulted into the back of the site. So much space gained off of just that Hunter's Fury.
That tiny little peek there. Unfortunately, Madison not able to, like, get the flick. So doesn't manage to get that extra numbers advantage. She's moving all the way over to the B side. There's that lockdown I mentioned a little bit earlier on as well. Oh, but is that the Venn diagram? No, that's just other utility. There's so much utility coming out right now.
And this is beautiful usage for Dignitas. This worst case scenario for OWA. That Hunter's Fury bought so much space on B. The ult to the back of Boathouse just to secure. Now Sholiana making sure it hurts on the way out. The economy's already in a bad spot. Why'd you have to do it to him? Dignitas on map point here on Ascent, and they've looked like they've turned a new leaf from that last series.
Honestly, they're looking so strong. Although I must say, again, I mentioned this a little bit earlier on in the series, but I think that the problem in the previous series wasn't Dignitas playing, you know, not particularly well. It was just that C9 were playing better. Dignitas are remaining fairly consistent right now, and it's just our. We kind of highlighted this. They're the content creator team. Yes, they are phenomenal players individually, but they're not actually a competitive team. And now as they come into this very last round with one of them janky force buys, they've got a judge. Hopefully Madison will be able to shut down something. If they win this round, it will be the coolest redemption arc ever. That's all I'm going to say about that. I think that would be really, really fun. But if I'm going to be realistic, Bladestorm has just been popped, and I don't see our eking this one out.
A very, very tall task. As the close angles is really all they've got going for them with that judge. Madison actually going to back away from this one. So the slow creep, the slow walk, able to open up some space in itself. Hannah's still holding it down on site. Now, it's been a position that she's been playing on a site, so could quite possibly be sniffed out.
Ooh.
There it is. Gets sprayed down. Madison does find one onto Emily, which is a pretty big kill to have. She tried to come and close the door and managed to do so. Unfortunately, paid so with her life. There's the Rolling Thunder, though, and it gets heaps of value as they're all pushed away back towards this A main area. Madison able to take down Milky Way, who had the blades available. We saw the Going Galactic from Teray. OWA start to fight back, and it was the Judge to get it started. Now, Thea sits down. Madison, no multi-kill this time around for you, or no more for you, as the flashpoints just buy so much time. Rain has to do so much. And OWA, you caster blessed them, Sam, to get that one done.
Apparently. Bless up in the chat. I am so impressed. I know, like, the Rolling Thunder is so powerful, and they'd kind of been holding on to it, waiting for the perfect moment, and that was it. That was the moment to use it. They stun up the entirety of Dignitas, and Stephanie survives, which means that they're able to use the flashpoint as well to stop them from denying the defuse. That was played so well by OWA, but here's the problem. They don't have the Rolling Thunder anymore. They do have that giant cosmic wall, which will be fantastic. They've got some rifles as well, but it's still match point. Every single round here is do or die.
And it's a quick takeover towards the B side. Fortunately, Carly's here, acting as the bouncer at the door, making sure nobody gets on. Sholiana is able to try to kill back. Emily gets on the board, dismisses away for Rain to trade. And OWA now life on the line. Hannah and Madison have to go huge. They've got some utility to their name, but they don't have a whole lot of time. With the spike down, they don't have a whole lot of information. They have absolutely no idea where the post plant is being played as they wait on that drone to come on through. Rain looking to get aggressive. Madison finds the first. That's going to open things up as the classic forced. Oh, no, they might just get sprayed through. They get spotted out by the recon. Both going up over the top. The turret trying to take her down, and Hannah needs to go huge. Finds one, but it's Emily for 3. Dignitas 13-7 will grab map 1.